Because there's literally thousands of watches out there to pick from, it can be a bit of a pain in the button to shift through it all and determine which ones are the surefire, no-nonsense enthusiast hits. Sure, you could just ask an enthusiast, but if you don't have 48 hours clear in your diary, you can find out the easy way instead. So here they are, the top 10 enthusiast watches that are basically perfect. This saucy little number from Swatch has been the source of much controversy since it stumbled onto the scene from nowhere like an absent father at his daughter's wedding. It wasn't stinking of booze and cigarettes, however, it was wearing a rather alluring scent. Moonwatch by Omega. Imagine that, a watch that not only looked like an Omega Moonwatch for just $260, those are 10 a penny if you speak to Carlos, but one that was actually sanctioned wholeheartedly by Omega as well. I mean, it may have been under extreme duress from Swatch Group CEO Nick Hayek, and it may break every known rule of brand sanctity known to man, but for us plebs, if you could get one, you were in like Flynn. Sure, the Moonwatch is made from artificial hips and imprints you with a colourful skid mark, and sure, the versions Carlos has are cheaper and better quality, but there's something satisfying about owning such an important brand mark for so little. Chalk 1 for the little guy. Right, so let's say you're not up for the plastic fantastic Moonswatch and you want to spend your quiet quit earned dollary dues on a watch that, you know, is actually a watch and not a prize from a travelling circus. The Bambino from Orient has got your back. Now, no male over the age of 15 wants to own a watch named after an orphan deer, so you'll be pleased to know that Orient neither uses the name on the watch or on its website. Anywhere. In fact, I'm starting to wonder where the name even came from. Anyway, doesn't matter. What Orient does provide for around the same price as the Moonswatch is a timekeeper that's not only made from actual metal, but is a beautiful, well-proportioned, mechanically powered one at that. This is what buying a Swiss watch was like 50 or so years ago, before the collectors arrived. Through the back you'll see the automatic caliber F6724, and through the front you'll see a beautiful cream dial with blued hands set against a 38mm case. And if you think this watch looks worse than a smashed crab, there's about a billion others to choose from. We loved it, we hated it, and now we love it again. A style so aggressive and pointless it could run for president. But unlike the diplomatic leadership of a nation, it's fine for a watch to be all form and no function, as Tiso's PRX Powermatic 80 gladly demonstrates. You'll pay twice as much as you would for the Orient for no more functionality, but what you do get is that 70s look that people have been literally stabbing each other to get. And I can see why. The integrated bracelet and blue waffle dial have got me glancing over at the cutlery drawer. Google image search blue waffle if you want to get a better understanding of why this watch looks so good. What really makes the PRX so irresistible is that at $600 it isn't made by some off-brand nobody looking to take up amateur bandwagon jumping. It comes from one of the oldest Swiss watchmakers to ever exist. 1853 written under the branding isn't a reference to the annexing of Lower Burma by the United Kingdom ending the Second Anglo-Burmese War, it's when Tiso was founded. It's hard to find fault with this watch, and that's exactly why it's on this list. It's a winner. In 1969, Seiko made a watch that checkmated all of Switzerland, the 6139 Speedtimer. You know how Tag Heuer and Zenith toot on about the first automatic chronographs ever? Yeah, well, Seiko beat them to it. Not only that, but ever the class act, Seiko didn't rain on Switzerland's parade when the Caliber 11 and El Primero movements were announced. And so, to celebrate that original, Seiko has made a watch that looks absolutely nothing like the Speedtimer and runs on a completely different power source. Yes, the Prospex Speedtimer 1969 reissue is an unrecognisable watch powered by the sun. I say unrecognisable, but that's exclusive to the Seiko stable because, well, let's not beat about the bush. It looks like everybody's favourite chronograph, the Rolex Daytona, considering the Daytona in this form was revived by Zenith's El Primero, and that the El Primero has dined out on a mistruth that good guy Seiko allowed to continue. I think that's fair enough. What makes the watch such an easy choice is the everything about it. At $600, it's as cheap as you'll get for a chronograph without hopping across the pond from Japan to China. And being a Seiko, you know it's going to be built like a steel-plated Tyrannosaurus. And just like a steel-plated Tyrannosaurus, you'll never need to change the battery. For all the stick Rolex gets these days, fair play to the brand for not abandoning the Enthusiast. A Submariner may cost more than an entire scuba diving setup and several trips away to use it, with change to spare, but that's where the Black Bay comes in. In smaller 39mm 58 form, it just might be the most perfect watch in the entire world right now. At around $3,700 it's hardly cheap, but compare the quality and specs to anything else and they'll come up short. A COSC-certified 70-hour caliber of Tudor's own design and construction is sealed to 200 meters within a very familiar-looking steel case and dial, clearly inspired by Tudor's bigger brother Rolex. That's the advantage of being founded by the same person as Rolex, where every other sub-alike gets beaten with the copycat stick. This one gets a free pass. If you want to support me and the channel, you can by checking out my novels. Link in the description. Thank you so much. With a little bit of plasticine and sticky tape, Tom Cruise was able to prove that Maverick, the sequel to 1986's Top Gun, could be just as good now as it was then. The secret formula? Simplicity. No lectures, no guilt trips, just good, solid, half-naked beach fun with the boys. No judgments. Tom gets it, and so does IWC. The pilot's watch Spitfire is a watch for pilots who flew the Spitfire, and probably got oiled up and played beach volleyball with their best pals. None of the watches in this list are smartwatches, and yet this IWC feels like the dumbest one here, and that's a good thing. You look at it and it tells you the time. It's not like, oh, look how shiny I am, oh, look how many bits I've got. It's just got an arrow and 2 dots at the top, so you know you're the right way up. It's also $5,500, which for an IWC in an era where watches cost more than house deposits, seems like it's sniffing the backside of good value. There are cheaper pilot's watches for sure, but none quite so complete as this one. In 2010, Seiko's big bucks offshoot, Grand Seiko, went on an international vacation to introduce us stupid Westerners to the idea of Japanese luxury. Following the great successes of such brands as Lexus, Infiniti and the other one, Grand Seiko's demise was as certain as when Cecil the Slug went for a swim in the Dead Sea. Except, instead of fading into oblivion like it was supposed to, it actually caught on. All thanks to the Snowflake. With a dial inspired by Maidstone High Street about 2 weeks ago, it depicts the icy chill of a snow-streaked landscape that looks like nothing else ever before. Chuck in fit and finish that makes the average Swiss watch look like it was made in England, and add the spring drive cherry on the cake, and you have a watch that, at around $6,700, is the perfect way to explain to all your mates just how much smarter you are than all of them. The entry Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch is not a perfect watch. It's quite big. The crystal is made from sweet wrappers. You have to feed it power every day like it's a useless baby bird. It looks the same as that cheapy swatch that everyone keeps going on about. If you're looking for a watch that's great, this is not it. It just might be the perfect enthusiast watch, however. Although the price has been creeping up and up, it's still half the price of the Daytona. It has a beautiful hand-wound movement that you can see if you pay a little more or have the case back swapped out. It's one of the best looking and most satisfyingly proportioned watches ever designed. Oh yeah, and NASA thought it was good enough to wear to the frickin' moon. I don't know about you, but the Artemis missions to return there not only make me squeak like a teenage girl, they also remind me just how big the balls were of the people who wore these watches the first time around. Cars in the 1960s rusted to atoms in a light shower, killed everyone on board twice going over a speed bump, and topped out at a healthy 34 miles per hour. And these watches on the wrists of those men not only went to the moon, they managed to find their way back again too, and that was before Google Maps. If you can't see why that makes the Speedmaster such an epic enthusiast watch, then you might need to check your pulse. Oh man, before we talk about why Audemars Piguet's $30,000 Royal Oak is a near-perfect enthusiast watch, I want to read you an excerpt from the brand's website. It's from a page titled, "A New Design Evolution for the Royal Oak." It says, The new references present slight ergonomic adaptations. The case and bracelet encompass larger polished chamfers. The caseback has been slightly more integrated into the case. The first links of the bracelet show a more pronounced decrease in thickness to better introduce the tapering links. It goes on. Clearly this is a brand that's so keen to not chop up the golden goose that it's gone entirely the other way and locked it in an airtight box so no poisonous gases can get in. And with good cause. The Royal Oak, once the industry's saviour in pivoting it to luxury, fell on hard times. And now it's back in a big, big way. And it's popping out golden eggs like they're on fire. Sounds like a hype watch, but the reason it's not is because before the world at large liked it, Enthusiast liked it, and once the world at large gets bored with it, enthusiasts will continue to like it. It's the watch your mother warned you about. It's got its own car. It wants to run away to Hollywood and become an actor. It'll burn big and bright, but not forever. A true icon. The last Enthusiast watch I've got for you today is probably the one I love the most, and not just because it's the most expensive. Francois-Paul Journe, known as the world's grumpiest watchmaker, is basically my idol. I admire anyone who can be as successful as he's been without pandering to anyone. In fact, he's done the complete opposite of pandering, at times actively diminishing the profitability of his business by turning customers he personally doesn't like away. I can imagine him literally shooing them out the door. And so the Chronometre Bleu, with its weird purplish tantalum case and electric blue dial, is the watch I covet the most on this list. These days, it's harder to get than an Amy Schumer joke, and so not only do you have to be an enthusiast to get one, but a gazillionaire as well. Such is life. Well, there you have it, 10 enthusiast watches that really are as good as it gets. Which would you choose? Any other watches you think should be on this list? Let me know down below. And please like and subscribe too, and catch me over on the Watchfinder channel as well. Thanks, and see you next time.